It's Thursday morning here in Lagos. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the program. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Yesterday, we reported yet another police shirt members attack, and this time around, it happened at the National Assembly complex. Reportedly, about 8 or 9 policemen were injured in that incident, and just yesterday, the shirt members have also alleged that 2 of them were killed in that particular clash. For the upteenth time, the shirt members are asking for the release of their leader, Elza Zazaki, who's been in custody for quite a number of years now. And there's a lot of conversation ongoing as regards this. Perhaps government needs to listen to the cry of these people and also try to understand how to police and secure protesters in the light of all of this development. I'm joined this morning by rights activist and social commentator Razak Olukwaba. Good morning and thank you very much for
good morning. And
joining us.
Good morning, viewers at home.
It's a very disturbing trend, especially when we talk about people being injured and people being killed, because it boils down to the value we place on human life in this part of the world. We might be thinking of it as someone has broken the law, but perhaps ultimately it boils down to, do we really value human life in this part of the world? Let's begin with this protest that seemed to have happened for too many times. This time around, the SHAD members have taken it to the National Assembly, and their request has remained one: the release of their leader. How do you react to this?
Well, starting from what happened at the parliament, that's an abode where legitimate protests are held. If Nigerians go there to hold peaceful protests and rallies and they are dispersed by the police has broken the law. So also, if you go there to protest, there's a line you should also not cross. If you cross that line, you'll be dispersed. So on this matter, we have to begin to do our own investigation. Who crossed the line first? And given the profile and the antecedent of the Shiite members, you will know that if the police got a hint that they are coming to the parliament, they won't go there with a low degree of protest dispersing. They will also go with maybe add substance like facility to resist attacks because of the profile. But you see, the situation we find ourselves in Nigeria is peculiar, and I think the federal government should also appreciate what the situation we find ourselves. In the last 20 years, we have had clash or security issues in the Southwest, but because of the ethnic and regional mechanism of the Southwest, it was quelled. The South-South also had their own issues, but today, among the 4 most deadliest groups in the world, we have one in Nigeria, which is the Boko Haram. And the elsewhere also beginning to take the 5th position in the world. So if you are the president or the security agent of a country like Nigeria, you are not going to take it lightly with Shiites. Because if you undo it, if you undo it again, it may lead to another serious
Interestingly,
issue.
there are some who would say that it's unfortunate that we might even be applying the same route that we applied with the Boko Haram. You recall that their leaders was gruesomely murdered, and there are many who would tell you that it was at that point that that group was weaponized and became very violent and turned to a terrorist organization.
Well, in content and character, they are completely different. The Shiite is a strange Islamic ideology. That is not what Boko Haram is saying. Boko Haram is saying that Boko Haram, that anything Western, we have to be opposed to it. And they took arm. They didn't, it was not at any gestation period. They were training, they were harming themselves. So they attacked we were attacking police formations. So when it was quelled and the eventual leader was gotten, instead of trying him at the regular court, it was, according to the report, he was executed. So, but the Shiite own is a bit different. Shiite engaged the chief of army staff on his way to somewhere, and they were repelled. And as a result of that, there will be the required level of law that will take its course. So the army went to where they reside, where they have their headquarters, to arrest the leader of the, which is regular. When we're in the days of our own struggle too, they go and take back, or if you organize any process, they will arrest Falai, or they will arrest Boy Chief, late Chief Bolagi, or Oshoba, or whoever, or Afenifere leader. Then, so it's a normal procedure. But when they got there, from the account we read in the paper, they attacked the army personnel. And you know, if you are not ready to engage and kill and allow security men to kill, you don't send army boys to such places. So they were repelled by the army, and that's what has led to what we are today.
It's good that you have taken us.
Can I say this?
Yes, just a minute. You have taken us back to 2015.
Yeah.
The Zaria massacre
has
been condemned not within this country, but even outside Nigeria. 348 Shia Muslims were killed in that particular encounter. There are some who would say that as much as the single soldier who died in that, call it whatever it is, even a battle, required justice. That is what the federal government has charged Ibrahim El-Zakzaky for now in court. Don't we also think that those 348 people, no matter what they've done, also required to be heard?
The death of an army officer and 340 people is very, very regrettable. But if I'm in a boxing mood with someone and he punches me once, I punch him 45 times. You can't blame me for punching him 45 times. It's a fight. If they go there to arrest the leader and you open fire on the army of a nation, they will open fire back on you, because you must know where to locate blame at times. You cannot engage a national army when he has come to make an arrest because of a previous incident. I will not support that. I also frown against the killing of 340. I frown against it too. But what led to it is the federal government must employ one thing that has worked in some other places in the north too. In some regions, they employ ethnic and regional mechanism to curb all these kind of crises. And instead of gun and bullet and agitation, there's a need for us to look at a mechanism that has worked somewhere. You see, there's politics in religion, and there's ethnic issue in religion too. There are certain location in the country where violence system of religion is not practiced. What worked for them there? And that's the area I think the government should look at, so that it's not about gun and bullet all the time. It's about, there are mechanisms you employ at times, that there are other religions are also volatile. Why is it that we don't have people practice in a very volatile way? There are Shiite members too. There are people who also believe in what Boko Haram believe in other regions too now. So why are there no violence? There's that mechanism that the government must also employ to curb it. And why I'm saying that is this, that if you look at the spread of S-men here today, the approach on regional basis differs. In other regions, it was not like that. But in a particular region today, there were people who have begun to call themselves the stakeholders of the regions, the traditional rulers of the region, leaders of groups begin to call themselves. In the north too, government will also empower such stakeholders that there will be no barrier in discussing with each other. Because if government and Shiite begin to engage each other till tomorrow, there will be that hostile and violent barrier.
I get your point. And I also understand that we seem to have a rich history of Shiite members clashing with security forces. But also, you recall that in the past few years, they've had a couple of protests that have turned violent. I mean, and they've recorded a certain number of deaths as well. Every group has a right to protest in this part of the world.
Yes, peaceful protest.
Shouldn't our security forces also have adopted a style of resisting violent protest with minimal force? Because we've talked about this. This same issue happened, I think, earlier this year or last year. And then we were saying, what happened to rubber bullets? What happened to, water canisters? What happened to things that are used in developed
There's a universal standard for protest. And if you go beyond that standard, there are also stages that government will also follow for you. If you are going for a protest, there's no need for you to be carrying catapults. If you are going for a peaceful protest, there's no need for you to go with bottles and knives, because the message you are passing will be lost. Immediately you want to make the protest to become violent, because you want to register the concern you have about certain policies of the government. So you go there to express yourself that the popular opinion says that don't do this policy again. For instance, sharp riot. That sharp riot will turn this country, the youth will not become empowered, will be thoroughly disempowered in another 20 years, which is what is happening now. So if you are going to such a protest, you will not register your meaning if you go there with gun, if you go there with cutlass. So the standard is that register your protest, your agitation, and government will note what we have said, that this is not a popular policy. Today in Hong Kong and Japan, the whole of Asia, there are posters about the migrant issue. It will be reversed. In fact, it's dead. The policy is dead already. But the protesters manage it to turn into mobocracy. And mobocracy is government of the mob, for the mob and by the mob, which is most cases what leads to violent protest. Is mobocracy that led to the death of Gaddafi. The regular soldiers didn't kill him. It's mobocracy. The mob took over. So anybody that is organizing a protest must have the vanguard and security for that protest, so that it will not be hijacked by the mob.
Unfortunately,
so the Shi'ites, that's what they lack.
It's been the police words against the Shi'ites. So
no, there's not the police word against the Shi'ites.
You watch the news item.
Yes.
And then we spoke to the police. We also spoke to the leader of the Shiite. And they will tell you that each time they have their protest, they usually realize that there are other people who join them, who they have also engaged severally not to be a part of the protest. They would tell you, according to them, that they haven't been the one responsible for all the violence
I have been protesting
that have been reported.
30 years of my life. What you do if you are going for a protest is that you police the process. You don't allow mob to take over the process from you. That's what is lacking in Shiite protest. Shiite, it's their responsibility to make sure that, because there's a reputation there already that they have a violent history. So, and because of that, they are not engaging the government in war. They are registering people so that the entire world will pay attention to them. If you are doing that, and you also allow people to mislead the process for you, you will be held responsible. If you shoot in the crowd to the police will return fire. So that is why it is important for Shiite at all time to guide the process. And that's what I'm saying, that we are an authority on this matter. And if the government has done something wrong, we will say it. You cannot. Police officer is a human being. Their right is important to me too. It should be important to you too. So if you say in the name of a protest, you kill a police officer that has family, wife, children too, in the name of a protest, I don't think it is fair to the army and the police. So what you do is to prevent hoodlums, mobs, and that's why we tag mobocracy. Government of the mob by the mob. It exists during the period that you take off to where you are going. There's always that time. If I feel calling me, who doesn't want to? The Shafile massacre in South Africa was taken over by this kind of mob that led to that popular massacre in South Africa today that they're celebrating. That led to even the turnaround in ANC, made Nigerians join anti-Shah protesters globally. It was the mob that started the violence and led to the killing.
You look at the position of the National Assembly now, the fact that they say Shiites are becoming insurgents like Boko Haram. The last time issues like this was raised was with IPOB, and it was prescribed. This is a religious group, a Muslim minority that is not only, their type of religion is not only practiced in Nigeria. Do you agree with that position?
You're coming back to the point I'm making.
Yes. Do you?
There's a mechanism.
Do you agree that? Is it accurate to begin to liken their operation right now to
because it is coming from the wrong direction? But if the government empowers, that's why there are mechanisms that are available for the government that the government is not using, and that mechanism is the mechanism within the northern region, just like what southwest and other regions are also using when issues like this arise. Let it come from the authority that has a right to pronounce it a terrorist group, that has to pronounce it alien to Islamic religion. So government must begin to talk to scholars Islamic scholars, prominent ones, respected ones in the north,
But
all over the country, such that
is it
no,
it
because
it is human right.
can I explain
There's-
this to you?
there
Is
is
that
freedom.
is that ideology? No, what I'm saying
There
is
is
that
freedom
what
of
I'm saying is
religion.
intellectually,
Yes.
it will be debated. So let the ideology be
I'm
defeated.
saying, should the faith of Shiite be subject to a particular people's debate? Anybody can determine
No.
whatsoever God they want to worship.
What I'm saying is that ideologies like that, as a Muslim, to me, is alien to Islamic culture. So allow it to flow ideologically. Let Muslim groups determine, based on superior argument from fellow Islamic scholars, that this is alien. If you are a Muslim, I will have cite instances for you, popular instances.
You don't seem
for
to
you.
understand my position. My position is that it doesn't matter what Muslims think about their religion. Anybody can determine to worship anything they want to worship. If I
Yes.
decide to carry a stone
But
now and call it my God, don't I have a freedom to do that?
Anybody don't have a right to introduce violent ideologies. Shiites are violent. There's no procession they hold in Canada, they don't disrupt the right of other people.
It's all right.
People.
Let's take a break
and
now.
that is where my concern comes in.
And then
I have Christian friends. I have read about 42 religions. None of these religions says that I'm not that much about Shiite. But what I know about Shiite is that they are violent, they are unruly. About the 42 religions that I've read about, there's no one that says that you should declare someone that doesn't have a right to practice another religion than his own religion.
It's all right. We'll return
That's
to
the
all
concern I
of
have
these
about
because it's a very disturbing trend, given the rich history that is behind it, and also given the amount of injustice that this sect have suffered. I mean, for instance, the issue in 2015, there is no way you would discuss it without mentioning the fact that 348 people were killed. And just
soldier will not kill
I
you
understand
back.
your point, but it is human life that we're talking about here.
See,
And I don't know how
the
we
soldiers
can,
that died too is a human being.
I really don't
He has
understand.
a family.
I really do not understand how we can
you
explain the fact
cannot
that
end the fight,
in
don't start
protecting
it.
a single person, you kill
No.
348 people.
They are not protecting a
I
single
can
person.
understand that.
In the process,
But let's
the
take a
soldier
break
was
now,
killed.
and then when we return, we'll talk more about this. Please join us again. Well, the violent clash between Shiite members and the police at the National Assembly yesterday is our discussion this morning. And we're also joined by security consultant, retired Colonel Hassan Stanlambo. Thank you for joining us on the program this morning.
Thanks so much.
So the issue of clashes with security forces, these are stuffs that have happened over and over again, especially with the Shiite members. And we cannot but remember what transpired in 2015 when 348 members of this Muslim sect were killed by the Nigerian army. There are many who are saying that even if their protests have been initially peaceful, they seem to have lost a lot of people that justifies in some sense how radical they have now become. What are your thoughts about this? Would you say, for instance, that we can just erase that history and forget totally what transpired in 2015 in solving this particular challenge?
Thanks so much. We wouldn't just go and start erasing that history, like you have said. But I think it should inform further lines of action. Okay? We can't just sit and watch an organization whose activities, in most cases, hurts our very national interest, which must be protected. To start with, maybe I should just let you know, I share that view that the national interest is above every other interest, maybe given my background. Every other interest, no interest comes above the national interest, whether you target human rights or whatever. Okay? Given the large number of deaths that was recorded then and so on, I agree. Fine. It was quite horrendous and so on. But when you have an organization that is beginning to use women and children as shield, and you are here attacking security agencies, maybe either firing back at them or whatever and so on, what do you expect them to do? To allow you deplete their strength while you push children ahead and you stay behind and fire underneath them and above them and so on? The state must be protected.
But how effective has this approach been, Colonel?
I am coming there.
This Zaria massacre was in 2015. This is 2019.
I am coming
there. It doesn't look like these guys are going to stop.
Look, by now, I don't know, by now, going by my thinking, such organizations would have been proscribed out of existence.
On
by
what
now.
basis?
I have just talked about the national interest. We could go on expanding
because
and expanding on that.
Isn't it also in the interest of the nation
Yes.
that our federal government obeys court orders? In 2016, there was a court order for the release of this same man that they're protesting about in 2019.
Are you aware that the organization we are talking about is an organization that has a training pact with Hezbollah? If you know the organization called Hezbollah and its notorious activities in the Arab world, are you aware that this same organization has Hezbollah training its men, sneaking them out, give them training, sneak them back in? Look, my brother, we are talking about our national interest here, the existence of the country called Nigeria. No sentiments. Proscribe IMN now, or another Boko Haram is gradually rearing its head in another 5-10 years.
Do you agree, Razak Olukwaba, that we need to suspend our laws to protect national interest? For instance, if these allegations are true, shouldn't we have used the law in prosecuting the man in question and do it in such a limited time? In such a limited time, I mean, this guy has been there for over 3 or 4 years now, thereabout.
Well, the law is also part of national interest. So if you allow the national interest to crumble, your laws also crumble. You see, let me quickly say this, that when you place human rights and security side by side, I'm a human rights activist. Rights at times are suspended to be able to provide security in most cases. If you look at the attack on where the last bomb that were thrown in at the US. For 2 weeks, when they were searching for this guy, nobody moved out until they got the guy. So nobody started talking on their national television that I have a right to move freely. Because these terrorists, you are not separated by right when they want to strike. They lump your right together and people get killed.
But how long? How long
we have to start educating our people that when security are involved, you have to be willing to suspend it. Willing. Nigerians should be willing on our own. Yes. Education must get to that point.
I get your point
where
precisely.
Must be
I'm just wondering how long we intend to detain someone.
No. If he has a link,
unfortunately,
that's where I'm going.
Unfortunately, comrade,
if you don't interject,
this is not even limited.
I will get to where you are
IMN.
going. If you allow me to talk,
remember that Sambo Dasuki, as we speak.
So the right, don't mix issues together.
No. The reason why I'm saying this is that we have to be careful not to begin to set precedents.
Sambo Dasuki is a different perspective. This is security.
Exactly my point. Exactly my point.
The right you say is exactly as. You see, from the angle the corner is coming in now, I don't think it's exactly as a right that Nigerian law must respect to. If he has a link. The most deadliest group in the world, Nigerians, Boko Haram is number 4. And Esmen also joining. Our soldier boys, they are overstretched. So if you are looking at right and you allow Zaki boys to start festering too, there's a danger. We don't have any other country than Nigeria. And remember, we are 200 million people. Nobody in the world will allow Nigeria to disintegrate. It's going to affect every nook and corner. That's why you see them paying attention to us. It's not the love they have for us. They don't want us to disintegrate. We are going to become a burden to all of them. So, my brother, let's begin to change our perspective about rights. 20 years ago, I won't say and what I'm saying here, I will not say it. But with the emergence of organizations, strange organizations, that want to bring strange ideology into the country, and in the name of that, kill innocent people.
Threatening our very
existence. I don't think we should not be careful.
It's all right.
In talking about that right you say is not that
Colonel
they don't
Stalabo,
deserve.
this is a democracy, right?
Yeah, right.
And then not many people will agree with you that in prosecuting terror, law should be suspended. As a matter of fact, law should be employed to fight terror. Because if you're accusing someone of something, you should be able to prove it. If these allegations are true, why is it difficult for the federal government to prove it in the court of law and rightly prosecute the accused? It doesn't sound fair to me. That's my point here. But beyond all of this, let us begin to look at the right of the man in question. Because the bottom line of this protest that we've seen is the long-time detainment of their leader. And when we return from this break, we'll begin to look at what the federal government has said over the years and the need to also open to Nigerians more about the welfare of this individual. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll open our phone lines and also hear your view about this discussion. Do join us again. Thanks for joining us again. The phone lines are open now for your contribution. Let me come to you very quickly, Colonel. Sometime last year, I think it was a year before, the federal government claimed that it was spending 3.5 million naira daily to feed the detained leader of the IMN, Ibrahim El-Zaki. What his followers are claiming now is that his health is deteriorating fast and that he needs some medical attention. Do you think it is important that perhaps the federal government can open up more on his welfare? There's nothing wrong in showing him in some protective custody to his followers, and perhaps that will be able to calm some nerves.
Yes, I will subscribe to that, look, government should be open about his welfare and let us know how much they're actually doing about taking care of him. We're all aware that sometimes back, I think he was flown to France or so for medical checkup and a lot of other things. Those are the sort of things government should be telling us so that we are all rest assured that, look, fine, you said it's under protective custody, he's been taken good care of. More so be mindful of the fact that he's a leader of an organization that is highly radical, okay? And just like I was saying the other time, the Shi'ites relationship with Hezbollah. And we know Hezbollah is a dominant religious group in countries like Iran. We know what Iran's relationship with the West is, especially Israel and the US. It therefore means that if there is any problem between Iran and the US, and either Israel or the US, okay, attacks Iran, it therefore means that US and Israel's interest in Nigeria will come under threat because these Shiite guys will be mobilized immediately by Iran to attack all US and Israel's interests. All that is dragging our nation into an innocent war that has nothing to do with us. We should be looking ahead and see how we're able to check these sort of organizations. That is it. That is my qualms with them. That is just my qualms with them.
I'm glad that you're a human rights activist. What are Zaki's rights, even in the midst of these huge allegations? Because at best, they are allegations.
Yeah, I will have gotten to that. Like, I've been established all these arguments that we have established. He has a right. There is even, one judge told me that there was no even offense that is not bailable. It's just the opinion of the judge that will say no. For so reason, you can't be given the bail. I agree with you that constantly it should be brought to court when there's a need for him to appear before a judge. There's a need for that. It needs to be taken care of. I agree with all those arguments. But the relationship of the members and the state security is on one side. I would not encourage anybody that is leading a protest to lead a violent protest against armed police or armed soldiers. I would not advise that. There are trigger-happy policemen. There are trigger-happy army officers. Just as there are responsible police officers too, who conduct themselves very well in the face of intimidation, harassment, and provocation by protesters. So it's either here nor there. That's on one side. Then the right of Zaki, I will encourage federal government to also demonstrate that we are under democracy. It should be protected. It should be given all the things it deserves as someone in custody.
And allow
Because
visits.
I am when we were under the military rule, I know what we went through each time we are arrested. The SSS guys, DSS guys that were with us that I know when they made us go through. We were kept under detention. We were very inhumane conditions. So I know the psychology of detention in Nigeria. I know what it means. I know the definition. So, and I don't advise our own federal government to allow us like to pass through that. It's bail. I'll be part of people that will advise federal government to be very, very careful with his bail. If he has a capacity to remobilize his people back on track, given what Major have said, the information Corner has given, said the federal government should be very careful. And that is why federal government, there's nothing you cannot declassify, particularly on issues that are sensitive of this nature. Declassify certain information around the trial of Zakzaki, around the information about Zakzaki, if they have a link with Iran, with the view to have joint and military assistance. Anytime anything happens to Iran, government must let Nigeria know that. So that opinion of people like you will change. Opinion of many Nigerians will also change that it's not being held against Israel and unjust, because there is no Nigeria that will not agree with me that what is happening in Nigeria today is a low-scale war. And our army are overstretched. We don't want another war. We don't want another angle to be open for the Nigerian army. We don't have any other country than Nigeria. And we will encourage Nigeria to do the government to do everything possible to keep us as one.
So a day after that violent clash, the Shad members were back on the street in protest, and it's just an example of how dogged they have become, and the fact that they might not be backing out anytime soon.
Do they seek police permits for all this?
Well, the fact that they are on the streets might mean that they have some permission to protest to an extent. But my point here is that, there are times when they also have this periodic
they don't need
processions.
Police permission for protest.
Protest,
They don't need police permission.
so?
But if you are a violent organization, police will raise concern.
Okay.
That protests we are holding tomorrow, we are aware. They will call the organizations. Like Beko, Gani, and our leaders then will call over and over again that your protest tomorrow, you cannot come out to. It will be violent. We are sure it will not be violent.
And the thing about these protests,
but because of their
you look
kind of
at
person
the processions and it looks peaceful.
Yes.
It's unfortunate that
It always looks like that from the beginning.
the point when it gets violent are not captured, are not captured under the camera lens. But my point here is it possible that we also begin to talk? Because if, for instance, a mode of worship for a particular religion tampers, with, for instance, there are processions that they conduct that affect traffic endlessly, is it important that we also start engaging them?
I've always said that
before applying force.
There is a need for us to open up a dialogue platform, so to speak, okay, so that we can be dialoguing with some of these organizations. Maybe proper enlightenment will make them want to bring in some reforms to their own activities and attitudes. Look at that. And maybe that's an innocent guy just driving past.
Just said it at the beginning. It looks, you see,
destroying cars.
Yes.
Eventually, maybe the car ran over him.
Yes. So you can imagine.
It's really very dramatic when you watch this and you begin to wonder.
Now that guy with that stick, somebody will tell you he's not armed. What's your definition of being armed? Is it until I carry an AK-47?
So the police says that it has arrested about 40 of the members of the IMN. But let's take this call very quickly. Dako is calling from where? From Ibadan. Good morning, Dako.
Good morning. You are doing a very great job there. I'm very interested in your program over there.
Thank you, Dako. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, I just want to let Nigerians know that the corporate existence of this country is more than any personal interest. That IMM, or what they call them, must be banned so that this country can succeed. I support the retired
Colonel.
Major, I don't know whether Major is Lieutenant Colonel, I don't know. I really support what he said. For the corporate interests of this country, this government should ban that religious sect immediately. I can see the picture that can appeal that guy because they did not show that picture completely to us. Is that the kind of religious sect that we must tolerate in this country? My dear brother, let's put sentiments apart. We all have human rights. But if it's against the corporate existence of this country, it should be banned. No one can fight for God. No one can fight God. We should leave God aside and face the existence of this country. I cannot just only for military rule. Doing military rule, this kind of a thing can never be tolerated. But we can't fall for that. We are in a democratic setup. Yeah. And this government should act fast. One thing I don't like about this, though I have sympathy with it, is too slow to my own liking. Thank you.
Thank you, Depo, for your contribution in the battle. It's very...
We can't go beyond this piece. Even with what he has done to what has happened to Saki, people share some opinion that his rights is being trampled about. So it's a sequence. We must allow the issue to get to the point it is today. A protest at the parliament is not a violent protest. It's not a barak.
But do you agree with that, Paul, that this group should be prescribed the same way IPOB was?
Of course, because if you allow this group to fester, we have a danger. Even before the leader was, before they had a counter with the chief of army staff, people who knew about their existence, who witnessed their procession, who witnessed the way they live their life, we were having concerns that the way this organization is going, and it's a total departure from the regular Islamic injunctions. Yeah. The jurisprudence of it's a radical, it's a total departure, complete departure from it. So it's not a religious group as far as I'm concerned.
Islam is a religion of peace.
Because there is no religion. I've read about 42 religions. Ekanka, Hare Krishna, Aristo. So if everything, there is no one that says that you should be attacking, you should be violent, you should be killing people who are not a member of the organization.
Let me take this call from Osun. Good morning, Comrade Ayo.
Good morning, Nathan.
Good morning.
Good morning to our guest in the studio.
Good morning, sir.
Nathan, honestly, even as much as I did not support the continued detention of the leader of the Islamic Movement of Nigeria, but that's not to say that the way they are going about conducting the steps is not acceptable. Yes, you have the right to protest, but when your protest constitutes a breach or jeopardize other people's freedom, destroying innocent people's property, that is uncalled for. That is not the way to go about it. This is how Boko Haram started. See, I have a friend. I was born in Kaduna, I grew up in Kaduna. I have a friend in Zaria who told me that when these people want to carry out their religious activities, people will continue to be scared, to be afraid of what will come out next about their activities. These people have considered stepping into another authority entirely. And you are in Nigeria. You are living among us here. You should respect the constitution of this country.
Absolutely.
Because you are a citizen of Nigeria. Yes, Nigeria is a secular country where freedom of religion is guaranteed, is a right. But that not to mean that you have to constitute yourself into breaching and jeopardizing other people's and because you want to carry out your religion activity. It is unacceptable. If keeping that man will bring peace to the land, I support it. But I don't think the way it is going now, government should intervene and see how they can settle this matter and release this man from custody. God bless Nigeria.
I agree with you absolutely, Comrade Ayo, that protests should not become violent to the point. I mean, there are people, there are motorists who got angry. You need to see the full report. I mean, there are people who were just driving and their cars were destroyed and all of that. Earlier, before you came, we were talking about how security forces can manage protests, especially when it turns this violence. For instance, do they have a right to shoot to kill, for instance, when such law and order is broken?
There's usually a rules of engagement, code of conduct, and what have you, that guides or moderates this sort of operation, so to speak. Let me call it an operation. Okay, and it is expected that law enforcement agencies or the military, if they are called out into it, adhere to those rules and of engagement and the code of conduct and so on. And there is what we call application of minimum force. You know, as much as possible, you are the teaching, like I would say, let me talk like our teachers in the staff college. The teaching holds it that you apply the minimum force under a given situation. And who defines what the minimum force is? It is you, the commander on ground. So if you are bringing out a team of men, policemen or military, to face a group like this and so on, you must have identified your minimum force.
You saw that guy now who climbed on the car
Yes.
and who was vandalizing the car.
Yes.
What's the minimum force that the police could have applied to that guy? Was it right for the police to have shot at a guy like that or just apprehend him?
No, apprehend him. You
Let's
could
take
stop
this-
the vehicle. You could stop the vehicle and get the damn guy down.
Let's take this call very quickly from, okay, Okorafo is calling in from Abia State. Good morning, Okorafo.
Good morning, Mr. Nier. Good morning, Mr. Arasaga, and good morning, Colonel Hassan and Dad.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. You see, what we saw at the National Assembly is exactly what happened in Hong Kong invasion. Our security agencies could have followed the lead from what they did in that Hong Kong. You saw how those security men handled the situation when something happened. That's why I've been saying that in Nigeria today, the issue of fighting crime is no longer analog. We should be talking about digital form in terms of handling crowd crisis. Because in terms of protest, you saw when it was coming, before the arrival of those young men and the ladies, what are you supposed to do? That is where we should put into every day retraining and again, because in as what the country, as the Korea was saying, retired. Globally, you talk about Iran, yes, you saw what's happening. You go to Algeria, you saw what is happening. You go to Sudan, you saw that of Sudan. What is happening in Sudan? 247. That is why this what crowd management is very, very important. It must be what? Distant. Now, how do we solve this problem? You know that in a country like ours, Nigeria is over 250 million population, in terms of population. By the time we engage at least 50 or 60% of Nigerians, and they are very busy doing something 247, you will not even see somebody going to protest. We don't answer that question because everyone is engaged. Now, you are now doing this one. By the time you finish anchor this one, you have another thing to do. By the time you do this one, you are tired. If you think you have to go to an rest, you come back the next day. You see that if people are engaged at least 5% of Nigerians, all this issue. Look, we are not in a global system. In this global system we have to use digital. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day in Lagos.
Good to hear from you, Okorafo. So one thing is certain, that this issue has the capacity to escalate, and the way and manner government addresses it is very key. As much as we want to apply force, justice is also very key. Do you agree, Comrade?
Yeah, of course. And that is why what informed our position that justice on both sides. If you want equity, you must come with equity. If you don't want people who guide the process to become violent.
Sorry, let me hold you for a minute. Joshua is back online now. Good morning, Joshua. Let's have your take very quickly.
Okay, morning, Uncle Yori. How are you, sir?
Nifemi is here, but Uncle Yori is watching as well. Please go ahead.
Okay, Nifemi, good morning. Thank you. My greetings to Uncle Yori and your guest.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Please, I'm looking at the resolution of government on this matter. It is important that we have a resolution of governance. If the court has granted this individual bail and government is still holding him, I think government should explain why he is being held,
Absolutely.
so that we will have a closure, a complete understanding of what is going on. Instead of people accusing government of maybe human rights abuse and all that. If it is for security reasons, let government come out and state it. This is why we cannot release this individual. And I want to say this, please. Whenever religious groups are protesting, please don't look at it as a peaceful protest.
is never peaceful. Religious groups, whether it starts maybe peacefully, it is going to be hijacked. Because religion is emotional. It's an emotional issue. So something should be done and be seen to be done about this group so that the nation will not be helping criminality in some form. So I'm just appealing with what the guests have said. It is important that the interest of the nation is placed above everything else. Nigeria must survive before any religion or the rights of individuals can be respected. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for calling in, Joshua. So Joshua is saying that there's need for the federal government to declassify some information as much as possible.
I agree with that.
So that the people can be carried along.
And beyond that too, there are mechanisms, there are solutions that coming from government cannot be trusted. That's when I start talking about certain mechanisms. And I want the government to also encourage, particularly our brothers in the north, to begin to employ some internal mechanism, because at the gestation period, all the stakeholders of the north knew that religious crisis take this kind of trend. So government should encourage them that there are stakeholders in the society. When you notice this type of thing, it has future implication. You must nip it in the bud. When Boko Haram started, the religious crisis started 20 years ago, I'm talking about the experience 20 years ago, it's always a bad experience for people who are southerners. And that is when the government will begin to point out at the danger that if it goes on for this, it's not going to be limited to southerners. It's going to affect all of you. So the Shiite people too, they started at a point too, where it was possible for the stakeholders then to expunge it that no, this idea would not fester its head here in the north here. So each region has its own peculiarity. They have a trend. They have people that they listen to, that they talk to. So instead of relying on government apparatus at times, relying on bogus government policies, seminars at times, they should employ this kind of workable areas. And that is why, if you see Taliban, if you see Al-Qaeda, if you see the negotiation with those terrorist group, it's not government and the terrorist group that they discuss. There's always the middleman.
I get the point.
That will facilitate such discussions.
Let's take this conversation to River State. Paul is calling in from Bonny. Good morning, Paul.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Yesterday, I was privileged to be listening to this program as well. And two gentlemen there, there's something they said, have granted this guy bail. And there are other ways to handle matters of this nature. Now, we cannot be breaking the law in the name of national interest, except you want to tell me that the court was wrong. But the point is that these people suggested there are other ways to take care of this issue. Assuming we have taken that measures, like as we are talking, this violent protest of recent times wouldn't have occurred. Even it would have occurred, then it would be blamed on them, like some of us who so much believe in this rule of law. So the corner is talking of national interest. National interest that brings anarchy. A national interest that makes a people not comfortable. Of what interest is such a nationalism? So what I say is that even one of the guys that when you suggested of the other Dasuki said the Supreme Court have granted him bail, he didn't want to go there. So except I want to be told that the court is no more point. Their orders are not to be followed, all in the name of national interest or the judges' aid. But in the absence of that, the bail should have been granted to these people. Remember that he's saying that those who make peaceful changes impossible, violent changes inevitable. So what am I saying in this effect is that if it is something to go by, when not to grant somebody bail, it should be accepted by the authorities and then take other measures. To handle it so that we don't get into this. Remember what happened to Yusuf, so even the reference to it. It is this type of thing that brought the Boko Haram we can't handle today.
I think you made a point, Paul.
I'm of the opinion, yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much for calling in from River State. We're running out of time now. I think we agreed with the fact that even if the federal government isn't obeying court orders, the federal government should be able to explain to Nigerians why it's not doing so. If there are things that are beyond the ordinary Nigerians to understand, that perhaps convince us that it's even beyond the rule of law, as Paul has put it. But let's take this home right now. How do you expect the security forces, to modify its operations? Because these are pressing challenges. The Shiite members are not leaving the streets. They came back the day after they alleged that 2 of their members were killed. It appears they've grown thick skin to killings now. It perhaps is even making them harder. What do you expect the police to do in subsequent protests like this?
Engage them in a more proactive manner. In a more proactive manner, it is taking into cognizance the fact that they would want to take steps A, B, and C. You arrange for steps A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay? That is to say, when they are assembling, do you have policemen who are watching out for them? When they start their procession, do you have policemen who are also...
The issue of trust is also going to be key here, whether they're going to
That's
trust,
why I said that.
trust the police enough.
There are people that can call them to
provide
discussion.
cover for them.
The government is not looking in that direction. There are people who can call them to discussion. Men, when they strike, Wole Soyinka was mentioned that time. In the Southwest, there were people that they say, there are people in this country that they can listen to, that will facilitate the talk between them and the government. And quickly, the way our last caller was calling, it sounds from man from the Southeast. And we encourage him to call Southerners who live in the North, who have witnessed the procession of sight. He will change his opinion.
That are feeling the pinch.
They are feeling the pinch.
Not you relaxing.
Not you in the South and be talking.
We have
call
to go
your
now.
brothers who are living in the North. They will tell you
how threatening
this conversation is still very open, and we're going to stay with it, following up on government decision and approach. Razak Olukoba, rights activist and social commentator, thank you for coming. Colonel Hassan Stanlamo, retired. It's always a pleasure to have you.
I appreciate great deal. It's only that I like such discussions always ending with solutions. I thought we'll provide some solutions.
Yes, we're going to have time to talk about this subsequently. Thank you so much for coming. A very big thank you to you also for watching. Uncle Yori will be back tomorrow with another exciting one. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. It's goodbye. God bless Nigeria.